assignments that they're able to work on. And then if they have a question, they can email their professor. And then their professor will email them within maybe a day or so. But the correspondence is through email. Because I used to think it was like Zoom. So that in my mind, I used to think synchronous, and I used to think, oh, they're taking a class online, or but then they explained it to me and they said, oh no, this is, I have my assignments, I submit it, my professor gets, to look at them, they give me feedback. And then if I have a question, I can email them, and, and it varies from professors, because there's some that have said, oh, I get a response like almost like right away. And there's certain times that my professor says, if you email me, I'm going to for sure, email you back, because it's almost like office hours perhaps. And then there's other times where they've come and asked me because it's taken a couple of days for them to hear back, and then they're stressed and they're crying because they don't know what to do. So, so I'm glad that you clarified it for me, so that way I have an idea of what it looks like, because I had heard just from the students sharing with me, but not necessarily from the college. It's like, what is it supposed to look like? So I can also kind of share that with them. Thank you.
So one of the things I'd like to point out is this is a pretty good early indication that our online performance in the classes and our technology and software platforms that we're using seem to be working and seem to be promoting student success compared to when we first started prior to COVID. So I think we'll keep managing and monitoring these outcomes, but as an early indicator of success, I think we're going in the right direction. So that's all I have.
That's it?
That's it.
Yes, thank you.
Will we get a copy, or can we get that emailed, or you have them for us? See?
I can email it to you also.
If you have if you have enough hard copies
I do.
tonight, but also
Excellent.
email, that'd be great.
And thank you so much for a great presentation.
Thank you.
Very thorough. Okay. Wow, that was, thank you. Well worth the wait, I might say. Item 1901, Chancellor's Report.
I'll be very brief. First, I want to thank Dr. Herrera and her team for just the excellent work they have been doing over the past year to create these data experiences and reports that are really drilling into some of the information that the board has requested, but that we're all interested in terms of using that information to create improvement and lead to student success. And I know a lot of work went into this particular report this evening, and it's something that we're going to be continuing to work on to get answers. AB 705 and 1705 really represented a dramatic shift in the way we do this work. And when you look at all the activities that are surrounding that, it's pretty impressive. We'd like to see the gains better than they are, and certainly we're going to continue to work on those. As I met with Representative Assemblymember Irwin here maybe 4 months ago now, one of the questions that we talked about was for those students that are taking the class, not being successful and dropping out, or they choose not to take the class in the first place, likely related to their perceived preparation to be able to do that work. And you can see all of the various ways the colleges are trying to wrap services around to help prop those students up. Those are resource heavy activities. And if we want to move the needle on that, to your point, Trustee Torres, we think we're going to need more help and principally more help from the state to help fund that direction. Because we're not going back to where we were before. So anyway, I want to just commend you, Dr. Herrera, and everybody who is involved in the work that you've been doing. There's a team, I know. Okay, and then I just want to also thank.
Want to acknowledge that and say, thank you.
It was the deans of IE and their staff It was the faculty in math and English. It was the vice presidents of academic affairs and the presidents
And your,
Along with our
and your
TAC.
researchers.
and our researchers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also want to just say thank you to the board for last Saturday's participation in the Ventura College East Campus discussion, one of at least two that are going to happen going forward. I thought it was a fruitful discussion. We had a lot of participation by the community, and our goal is to level set some of the knowledge with trustees, and I hope you found that fruitful as well. This fall, we have conducted joint cabinet meetings again between my cabinet and each of the college's cabinets, and they've been as fruitful or more fruitful even than we began this process last year in identifying some of those bigger issues or big rocks, as we like to call them, that are facing us, and building on the work and the themes that came out of last year. It was really interesting. Last year, we did this for the first time, and there was a lot of uncertainty about, why are we doing this? What do we want to get out of it? Became apparent very quickly that there was a lot to talk about, that the colleges have in common and some key differences. This year, as we got into the conversations, everybody was ready to go, and we got right into the themes and those issues that require district level collective energy to figure out whether they're challenges or opportunities. I will, as Dr. Sokanu mentioned, I'll be at Moore Park hosting an open forum for the employees tomorrow. I've conducted one at Ventura, maybe 3-4 weeks ago, and at Oxnard, as mentioned yesterday. And what's really been nice is that I do feel like the colleges are getting to know us and me at the district better, and I'm certainly getting to know them as well. I find those very, and let me just tell you, there's not, I get an occasional softball question, but I get the meaty ones too. And we talk about those things. So it's been very helpful. I just want to also say thank you to the colleges for all the invitations to the variety of the events that have been going on. And I try to get out as often as I can. And I just want to say happy holidays to everybody and thank everybody in the district for just the great work you do to create hope and opportunity for everybody we serve.
1902, I think, is a part of your report you had mentioned.
We don't want to forget you again, Dan. So we have a brief update. There's a lot of aspects to the compressed calendar. The backbone or the real infrastructure of it is a big technical lift. And Dan has been directly involved in that work. And so he's got a brief presentation. We've included updates in the board reports for the last, Dan, I don't know what, year or so, in each of the monthly reports. But we thought it would be useful to get in front of you and talk about it a little bit. So Dan?
Present from back here, so I can stand next to my colleague, John. Good evening, Chancellor McClellan. Thank you for remembering tonight, Board of Trustees, student and guests. So I wanted to, this was in your November packet. I just updated it with a couple pieces because the project has continued to move forward. This is an update on the compressed calendar project. This has been a collaborative effort, both for bringing a compressed calendar forward over many years. We have all of this documented in a Teams environment, in our environment. We have all the historical stuff from the very first work group, all the way to the second work group, all the way through to where we're at now. We've documented everything. So all the decisions, all the discussions moving forward. So it's been a true collaborative effort over years. We're at a point now technically where we're ready to go, but we've put a pause in the project, and we'll get to that in the slides. So it's just kind of a little preamble. So one of the things before we start any major projects and any minor projects really is trying to find, or we trying to find the purpose of the project and what those objectives are. And so I wanted to just kind of highlight why we're doing this and why we've been asked to do this. And this was at the request of our faculty and those work groups and our students. This wasn't, hey, IT wants to do this or the administration wants to do this. This has really been a long time conversation among many constituents over many years to bring this forward. So that's the purpose, and these are the objectives. And you can see one of the things on here was a decision to move from our 18-week primary term, which is what we have now, in a 12-week summer, to 2 16-week primary terms, a 4-week winter intersession, and a 10-week summer session. And again, this went through consultation committees. I know the Senate's discussed it, and this was the model that had been selected across the district. And those are the reasons, obviously, the objectives are why we want to do this, really to the benefit of our students. So the work to date, I just put a high level of the things that we've done. We kicked off this, the technical portion of the project in February 2000, this year, February 22, 23 is when we started the project. And then we went through calendar mock-ups, and we had a mock-up of 24, 25 and 25, 26. Obviously, we put a pause in it, so we're not going live in fall 24. We're going to go live in fall 25. But so we need to do 25, 26, 26, 27 in terms of calendar mock-ups. And we also have, I think one of the AFT representatives mentioned the block schedule, or how the schedule is going to look. We actually have that, and we'll share that with them. And one of the things we'd really like out of this project is to standardize on that block scheduling to make life easier across the entire district for all of our students. So that is also part of the proposal. We did an object analysis, so there's a ton of banner code that we need to look at for registration, fee assessment, financial aid, all transcripts, everything. Adding a new term and then tweaking the terms touches a lot of things in student rosters, a ton of things in banner. We need to go through and analyze all those objects and test those objects with the new term and compressing the calendar. And then obviously we had to build out our infrastructure. We couldn't have done really any of this without our functional areas, our registrars, our financial aid, our academic data specialists, student finance, payroll, HR. Like, this is a whole team effort to test all of these areas in manner that we need to change to make this function. And so we've done some full system testing as much as we can. And so, like I said, from a technical perspective, we're ready to go and ready to relaunch this project. But we did put a pause on the project. And here's a couple of the things we want to do during the pause and why we paused. And actually, Dr. Forbes will go through a little bit what the colleges are going to do through the pause. But we highlighted some of the things. One of the things we really want to do is we didn't want to rush the collaborative bargaining agreement between the district and the AFT. We really wanted to be thoughtful and look at all the articles that this is going to impact and do that negotiations, talk about that block scheduling, talk about those academic calendars, and really be thoughtful and get it right versus rush it and make mistakes and have to make adjustments, especially as it relates to our students and the classes we offer and payroll, and then all of the things we want to do on the campuses to make sure it's a success that Dr. Forbes will get to. So you can see we're pausing right now from January to August. We'll actually probably spin this up, get the technical environment back up and running in September, and then ready to do our kind of project restart, reassemble our teams, test, and get ready to go. And then I'll talk about what's to come, but I want to give Dr. Forbes has a slide here about what's happening at the college.
All right. So yeah, we prepared this a month ago. So we're not pausing at the colleges. We're in full steam ahead in terms of analyzing what does it mean to have a winter intersession. So think back to Trustee Lichtel's point, just maybe, I don't know, 45 minutes ago now, about what happens to students that fail a class in the fall and how do we keep them on? So there's the green arrows on this model of what a compressed calendar looks like would be the ideal, right? You take your classes, and then you have a winter intersession. You can take a class, maybe two, but probably one. And then get right into spring, and then into the summer. The red arrow is really important to us from an instructional perspective because we don't want anyone doing the red arrow. No one does the red arrow. We want to have a culture that you're either getting back on track because something didn't go well, or you're getting ahead, or you're enhancing, maybe in your major, you're getting to do some type of special lab internship, something in the community. But there's a lot of creativity that can go into the winter intersession that we hadn't, until we were faced with, we're going to start this thing, that we hadn't really processed together as a team. So when I say full steam ahead, we spent an hour and a half with every department chair at Moore Park College at our last meeting, with all the department chairs, and we were brainstorming, and it was interesting to see the types of collaboration that was coming, and thinking outside the box. This isn't just taking whatever we would normally do in summer and just plopping it into a 4-week session. And so winter intersession planning there, I have some bullets. Identifying courses to best support the degree completion. We want to increase fall to spring persistence. What are the accelerated courses we could do? And then what is the credit recovery courses? I come from a more of a K-12 when I was high school. Credit recovery is a phrase that we use. Don't really use it here, but essentially to get you back in a guided pathways, get back on the path. And because it can be more intensive at that point, some of the thinking that we heard from faculty was, okay, so you failed your math class. We know data says we need to get you to pass that class. Now we're going to plan that 3 hours a day, and you're going to be here. If it's an in-person class, you're going to be with us, but how can we wrap around services and really make it a thing that, hey, we're going to do this and you're going to pass the class. You get 4 weeks to do it. You get to just focus on this. Maybe we're going to have extra food, like whatever the thing is that kind of makes students successful in that January term. So we also started thinking about in the summer intersession planning, because we are moving from what the blocks used to be in a 12-week to a 10-week, and then to analyze programs outside of the standard normal term. So we still have the nursing, we have an EDM program, there's paramedics, there's a bunch of things that are outside our standard that are we're still needing to spend some time analyzing and thinking about. But I'm open for any questions. We wanted to give you a clear picture that there's a lot that Jennifer, Louise, all the faculty are going to be working on to plan out best that.
I think there's a lot of possibility with this, and it's actually quite exciting, and coupling something that Dr. Herrera mentioned, the concept of looping. So that student that either didn't pass the course in the fall, potentially looping with that professor who can then focus on the areas, the units of study that the student didn't accomplish in that 4-week period to complete that course and then persist on, I think is really exciting. So this is really great to see, and I commend the staff for moving in this direction.
Yeah. So all the technical work, I'm gonna turn it back over to Dan, but that's paused to then get the things going. But I'm saying full steam ahead. We've got a lot of planning. It's going to involve maybe some curriculum that you're going to see. You're going to see some, for us, it's going to be planning out who's going to teach those classes and how do we resource that. So there's a lot of exciting things, and we're not that far away from having to plan out what that looks like.
Trustee Torres.
I'm so glad you presented because I understood the compressed calendar to a certain extent. I mean, I know you were doing all this work, but just coming in and thinking, oh my God, just so much work that's going to go into, but it makes me really happy to know that there's those intentionality and how can we support our students that might be struggling, and the ones that are, moving ahead. What can we do to continue moving ahead? And you're able to leave if they need to within those 2 years, to where they want to go. And talking about the curriculum, I just wanted to mention, I was so happy we approved it because we have the biomanufacturing curriculum that we approved for Moore Park College about it. That was really neat to be able to see the coursework, which I'm curious. I mean, some of the students, is there thoughts about them being able to take some type of work or for our students that are going to be now in their baccalaureate program at Moore Park that can take advantage of something like what we have here within 4 weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. You think of the more intensive lab, kind of the research they can do, different pieces
I just
there.
love, you know, what I started thinking of, which it's just so forward thinking. It makes me so happy because I'm thinking it's like we're always working. So it could be an internship that's going to help them understand more their career and be much more stand out when they're applying for jobs or when they're applying to the university. Get a sense of, do I really want to go into this? This is the pathway I chose, but I realized after this internship, I really don't want to do this. So there's so many different things for our students and giving them some skills so they can do things already and the intentionality of it. So I really thank you for all of this work that everybody has been putting together in the compressed calendar and really having the vision. So the vision was there first, and then there's the compressed calendar that's going to help carry like the vision and what that's going to look like. And I get excited. It makes me want to just, work with you guys, like step out of a trustee and just kind of go work with you. I mean, it's really nice. And I say this because believe it or not, when I'm reading, I mean, I love K-12. I'm not going to come to higher education, but when I read this work, I take it also to what I'm doing. And so it's really neat to be able for me to look at the board meetings and to highlight, have questions, and then say, wow, this is really cool. Like, I think I can use some of this at my school. And then as I'm using it at my school, like this was successful, we can use it at a district. Then after a district, it becomes something like county. And so the work that you're doing, know that it goes so many different places that you have no idea how you're impacting me. You impact me in knowing the work that we do as our colleges, so I continue to promote it. And then some of it, I'm thinking, wow, this is some good stuff that the K-12s can also utilize and start thinking for their own students. And, having something like this with that intentionality and more of that work. And I know that we had a trustee at our December 9th meeting say that they're starting to move in that direction. But I'm excited to see this wonderful work that you're doing, all of this hard work. Thank you.
And
Thank you. I only have about 15 more slides, so we'll go through them quickly.
no, you don't.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So our next slide is what's next. We have our communication plan that's been done. Dr. Hera and her team, the marketing team at the district has worked on it, as well as the marketing directors at all 3 colleges. And what the communication plan is, it's a mini project plan on how are we going to inform and socialize the compressed calendar for our internal stakeholders and also our external stakeholders. So our educational partners in K-12 and other higher ed institutions, our businesses, really letting them understand what the compressed calendar is, what the schedule, what the academic calendar is going to look like, what adjustments to their calendars they have to make, things like that. We want to get that information out. So this isn't a surprise to anyone. We want to make sure all the content on our websites are updated. All of the things that our fantastic marketing teams do, we want is in that communication plan. And we can do another presentation on that. The other thing we've done is we have test plans for every area of the Banner database I was talking about. We went through with our teams and tested everything. Again, tremendous lift from those functional areas and IT, and we've now freezed it. So we've got it in a solid state of, hey, we tested all this stuff. Now there's going to be a couple upgrades between now and when we unfreeze it. So we're going to have to make sure those upgrades didn't hammer any of the work that we did. So we're going to have to test that. So that's some of the work that's going to come. Then you can see the X's are things we're still working on. So we're still doing our negotiations with the AFT and SEIU, making sure that we're adhering to and adjusting those bargaining agreements as needed. Coming out, part of that is the new academic calendar, or what does that compressed calendar look like for 25, 26, 26, 27. And then I talked a little bit about retesting the adjustments once we unfreeze it. And then you can see our first winter intercession and our full planning for that and our full academic year cycle testing, and then registering for fall 25. So spring 25. So those are kind of our timelines and statuses. And then we have kind of our product artifacts, and actually this has been updated. That's 69 is now at 75%. of our project, and you can see all the things we track, and then you can see a sample of what the 25-26 academic calendar could look like. And again, we have to build out that 26-27, and a lot of that'll be influenced on how we determine 24-25 coming up here in the next week or two that I know the college presidents and HR and the AFT are working on right now. So that is the presentation. Thank you.
You said this has been a long time coming. Next month is 24.
Yep.
As I'm looking at this calendar. Wow. Okay,
Chair,
student trustee.
just a couple of comments. I don't know, I'm listening to everyone and I understand, but I'm also putting myself in like the position of the student taking that 4-week class and like having to do I don't know, 5-unit, for example, math course, and how much material that is compressed into 4 weeks. Like, that sounds scary.
You probably won't get a 5-unit math
Mm.
class in 4 weeks.
Okay.
That probably won't
So
happen.
there's gonna be
There's a
restrictions.
really
on it
low
to- okay,
likelihood of that.
Yeah.
okay.
I'm not saying it's impossible. It just means you're sitting in class for 6 hours a day learning calculus, which I would love, but I might be the only one. So
I wonder what the fill rate would be on that
If I-
situation.
I'd be like, I'm just sitting there like, so. But that is exactly what faculty, like what you brought up is exactly what faculty are processing through, is thinking like, what makes the most sense? That those categories, right? Someone that didn't pass the class, and maybe they just didn't pass the class by like a couple points, in the fall. How does that then look? What classes are our highest, lowest success rates that we care the most about students jumping right back in, and that we support them and really focus on that? We're not going to be able to offer the entire catalog in that 4 weeks. So looking at some data and figuring out what's best for students from that perspective. And then probably the other thing that I heard the most, Matthew was in the room with our department chairs meeting, but I heard department chairs thinking through things where they hadn't, before they're like, how do we fit something that we do right now in 18 weeks and 4 weeks? And I don't even, they were, but then the more they started thinking about, and music, for example, performing arts, how do we have a practice session? How do we do something that we normally do in a full semester and have something in the 4 weeks? And then they started thinking like, well, maybe that's where we can really have in a composition major, we can do a class that somebody helps, like they get into electronic music, but they can really do one big project that month. And I'm able to do, they started brainstorming like, well, maybe that's a 1-unit or lab-based 1-unit class or 2-unit class, but the amount of time that they get with students to really zero in on their passion was starting to get exciting. So things like that, I think, are what students will end up anticipating. We want to provide an array of options that make the most sense for getting back on track or moving someone forward in their passion. And I think if we plan that out well, it won't look like the compressed calendar of Pierce, LACCD, Canyons, and Santa Barbara and everybody else. I'm like, we can do it. No one has converted to a compressed calendar since COVID. So let's rethink this. Let's use our best thinking to really make this student-centered.
Thank you.
What were your other thoughts as a student?
Well, personally, if I were to withdraw from a class, I would rather take either an elective course. That's what I do for summer. Like I take
Huh?
the classes that aren't really like interesting to me, or like something that that's not gonna affect me that much, and that I know that I need to learn like, specifically this material for my major.
Sure.
So like I'm a political science major. So if I know I need history, I wouldn't take a history course in the summer because I know I wouldn't learn fully. But that's just one student. There's many different learning ways.
It's interesting that you asked her the question, because I thought I heard earlier that the different stakeholders, including our students, wanted this. So I hope that
Oh,
implies and means that students are engaged in the process and will continue to be.
Yeah,
So,
that type of feedback is critical.
Okay.
If what your thoughts were, if we don't have a plan for that profile or that interest, then we've made it, that was a miss.
Yeah.
Right? So we want to, of all the wonderful diversity of our students, we want to have at least something intentionally planned for our entire student population.
Trustee Chancer.
I thank you for the report, and I think that the only questions I have actually, I'm gonna lean towards a request for a closed session item, and that is on the negotiation side with SEIU and AFT, just to get an update on that, because I do have some curiosity there. So that's one. And then also on the business services side, on the fiscal side, as we think about implementing this, will there be an impact on our adopted budget, so to speak? So there's some curiosity points there that are important, because you could have everybody on board, but it's important to make sure those parts of the system are also included, and the train keeps going forward. So just thought I'd make those comments, not questions.
Also
Student trustee.
one more thing. How will the, I know we can't know now, right? Because it hasn't been, adopted, but, what kind of impact would this have on students when they're transferring to CSUs and UCs?
I'm not on the student services side of the world, but we have an integrated model at Moore Park where we try to talk these things through. My understanding is that passing a class in that winter intersession then helps get students back on track if they are transferring for the fall. Whereas if they are back in that class in the spring, it causes problems. So anyway, that's what one of the big reasons, like one of the big bullet points justifying why as a system we would want a compressed calendar is just for what you pointed out, because that's one of the biggest benefits to students is them staying on track to transfer by the fall because of the timing of the winter intersession.
As you bring this item back to us with further updates, you may want to elaborate on that very kind of a question too for the students, because as you've acknowledged, they're the main beneficiaries or most impacted by this. Student trustee?
Can we make sure that the associate students governments are involved and this also goes through them? Please?
And just because I know how it is as a trustee to make a comment, I am totally in support of that request. I just want to make sure that clear.
Okay. That has been recorded. Okay, well, thank you. Oh, and just, well, as you're leaving, this item and the previous discussion on AB 1705 and 705 brought to my mind as we're next month, January, the governor's budget is going to be, numbers are going to be released. A question that we hear often is, okay, where in the budget do we show attention to students? And so I think even within your presentation, Dr. Herrera, you alluded to that in some way, shape, or form, unless I'm making it up right now. But very definitely to the student trustees question, there will be some impacts, not just to the students, but and yours too. How will this affect the budget, or how can we see, as I saw reference in the budget narrative, or some way, shape, or form, it would be helpful going forward. And it's going to be a real interesting budget time this coming year, potentially. Thanks again.
Sure.
Trustee Chancellor.
We were moving so quick. Hate to do this, but I had a couple questions in regards to 19.01.
Okay.
One was an acknowledgement of the reports that came out there. In certain areas, there was an emphasis on what's been done and what also is occurring moving forward. And I'd like to highlight in particular institutional effectiveness division. It was really helpful as a trustee to kind of see the future things that were occurring. And I'd just like to make a request as well as in some of those, there was one in regards to contract education training, Ojai Valley Inn celebrated the end of their 10 weeks of employee training. We get a lot of invites, but as there are more, as these events occur, just make sure that as trustees, we get this because that would have been a special event to attend. And then there was general obligation bond initiative. There was a bullet on the VCCCD executive planning team. And it mentioned that the team meetings will be held every 6 weeks and anticipate an early December meeting tentatively scheduled for a Monday. Membership includes 1 to 2 trustees, 1 to 2 college representatives, and the executive director of operations, vice chancellor of business services, and Kathy Barakis, I don't know, and business services. So my question is, did this meeting already occur and have 2 trustees attended?
No meeting, no such meeting to my knowledge of that
Okay,
membership.
so,
And that is an item that, as chair, I'll be addressing as far as
okay,
the second trustee.
just as,
Yes. Well, either, I mean, it's a special purpose activity, so it could be an ad hoc committee, or the chancellor and I will discuss how best to proceed. It could be a board decision, so.
Okay.
I would like to, I'm sorry, Josh, I would like to recommend we discuss it as the board and have it openly. I think if there's a board member who's interested in participating, I think it's important to be able to know that. I myself am not interested in participating, and I think, I know in the admin services committee, we mentioned it, and I said, I will not be one of the board members participating. But it's nice to know if there's a board member who's interested. I think that's the essence of us as a
It will
board.
be, it will be a board meeting.
Okay, so we'll decide as a board. So, perfect.
And I can confirm that that meeting did not take place in early December. There's been a delay. And so we're looking now at the early January.
okay. On that note, I was curious, was there a reason why college presidents, it says 1 to 2 college representatives to be determined, but college presidents wouldn't be included in that? Because to me, a lot of the needs assessments of the 3 colleges, college presidents, I'm looking in from the outside at this point, but would be pretty a critical voice.
And so they could be one of the 1 or 2 representatives. They're also being pulled in for key aspects of the planning. So for example, we were developing the polling instrument this last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and the college presidents were invited, the vice presidents, the maintenance and operations directors, key individuals who understand the facility needs and how to help us shape the questions of the polling instrument. So we are bringing in experts as needed throughout.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Okay,
January, it sounds like.
we'll be apprised of when that next meeting is. so.
Will it be before our board meeting or after our board meeting?
And you started talking about the dates yet?
Okay.
So, I mean, at this point, we're waiting for the polling to take place. And once we have information to digest, that would be when we have that next meeting. We're looking at mid-January.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, there are no current items under 1903. That brings us to trustee reports. I'll begin with our student trustee.
Just something really quick. Deadlines extended for UCs and CSUs. So please tell students, for those who didn't turn in their applications on time, that they still have a chance to do so. And that's it.
Trustee Chancellor.
Thank you so much. And we'll probably all congratulate. So, but for the grads, but for the data that was behind it, that was requested, and it was great to look through that, really helped with some of the other components. I did receive a correspondence, and that was in regards to Ed Code 87018, which is, for our employees that are in military reserves, military service, that then go and are called up to service. I learned that the district has the ability by the governing board to approve to supplement any differentiation in pay. So as our military service men and women are called to service, if they are going to lose out on their pay here, we would have the ability for 180 days to do that. I can't recall this board ever being asked to do that, and there was a question in that regard. So I'm eager to explore that. Number two is I was made aware that our solar panels are still not hooked up. I think it's been 3 years since that work's been completed at some of our colleges. I would ask that our board takes a political stance and works with our public utilities, in particular Southern California Edison, to perhaps write a letter advocating for this work to get done and to work out and to perhaps reach out to our local legislators on that. Last but not least, there was a comment made in request to the elections that our Associated Student Government and I almost said employees, but our students, sounds like they have a huge role in running those elections. That was kind of surprising to me. But what it caused me to think about was a request we heard years ago, which was, do we have the option of offering stipends and or pay for some of our leadership roles in student government? I know other colleges and universities do just that. So I'd be I'm curious to open up that discussion and see if any other community colleges do just that. And happy holidays. And I look forward to seeing everyone in the new year. And congratulations to Chair Perez and Vice Chair Torres.
Thank you, Trustee Torres.
I had a great time with MECHA. So MECHA had its annual conference at Ventura College, and they invited me to come over. And so I always love to be able to spend time with the students. It's, the whole reason I ran for office, the whole reason I'm here is what motivates me. And so when I see the students in the back and that you're staying here, and I remember still back in the days when we stayed so late, I remember Moore Park, particularly college students would stay here till that late. And so it was a wonderful opportunity to revisit, social justice and what that means and the movement, and what does it look like now, and the different ways that MedChat can get involved, and the importance of them understanding policy, and be able to share my experiences and say that I didn't know this when I was your age and I was in MedChat, but now that I know this is one way that you can empower and do your job and your work. And so it was a beautiful blessing for me to be able to be with them. Have a wonderful Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone. I see you with your Santa, Laura. I wanted to wear my hat, I totally forgot. And just thank you for everything that you do. Make sure to take time for yourselves. Please make sure to do that. That's important. I think we work really hard and sometimes we forget to take care of us, and we're at home and we're still looking and researching and trying to do some work. And there will always be time. Our students are not asking us during this time to work. They really want us to take care of ourselves. So when we come back to work, we have the energy and the stamina to be able to do this. And it's hard because I have to put that into practice myself. But I've discovered that that's really important, especially spending time with your loved ones and your family. Don't neglect them because of this work. Our students don't ask us for that. They just ask us, work hard, but make sure you spend time with family. And I think as educators, we're horrible at doing those things. So my invitation is spend time with your loved ones. It's a time of being together, of expressing love, of gratitude, of moving forward, of doing a lot of reflection walks if you like to do that. And so again, have a wonderful time with your loved ones. I look forward to seeing you next year. And thank you for everything that you do.
Trustee Mantu.
Tonight I have 4 items, 2 from past history and 2 looking forward to. During the last month, I had the bittersweet yet uplifting experience of attending a memorial service for Hal Jandorf. And I was filling in for our chair who could not attend that event. Was an astronomy professor at Moore Park College. Instrumental in the development and operation of the observatory. But more importantly, what came through from all the people present was how interested he was in passing knowledge on, not just to the students in his classes, but adults and children of any age. And secondly, was the dedication of a bench in a very special placement on campus in memory of Michael Sokanu. And at least we have a place where we know Michael's going to visit us in spirit for many, many years to come. Looking forward, I'm looking forward to Friday's graduation, the Oxnard Fire Academy, based upon the last blaze, 3,000 acres or so, that luckily did not result in loss of life or even property. Our firefighters are so phenomenal at preserving that, to say thank you to these individuals in advance for the work that they're going to do. And then lastly, on behalf of my grandkids, attending the zoo's holiday lighting event. Thank you, and Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Trustee Lichtenstein.
Thank you, Chair Perez. And again, thank you for agreeing to continue as our chair over the next year, as well as you, Chair Trustee Torres, in that vice chair spot. Congratulations to our students who either graduated or ready for transfer here at the end of this semester. And of course, to all of our faculty, staff, and students at the three colleges for the Aspen Award recognition. Look forward to hearing more about that. I had the opportunity to attend the State of the City event this afternoon in Thousand Oaks, hosted at Cal Lutheran. It was a great event, one of the best I've seen of that sort. And it was really great to see quite a few Moore Park College staff in attendance. It's been mentioned, but Saturday's study session related to the Santa Clara River Valley issue and what their needs and wants are, I thought was very productive. And I just want to provide my support for that process as we move into and through the process of really investigating what is needed, what's necessary, and what would be of the most value there. And I certainly hope that we can perhaps have a future meeting in their backyard, so to speak. I think that would be very important. Welcome to our new employees and best wishes to our retirees. And again, thank you, or I should say, happy birthday to Dr. Sakenu on your birthday. So President's report, I just want to thank the three college presidents and their staff, anybody who contributes to those reports. They're very much appreciated. It really does give us a nice snapshot into what's going on campuses. And that's really important when we talk to constituents or students in the community, and we talk to them about what's going on the campuses. We're able to speak to those things. And same thing with the chancellor's report. I especially appreciated the bond planning process, next steps, and where we are moving through that. I think was really important. And then, as much as I hate to end on kind of a little bit of a somber situation, the Legislative Analyst Office recently released a publication titled California's Fiscal Outlook, and therein the following statement can be found, I think, on page 2 or 3, and I'm going to quote it, so I'm going to have to read it. California faces a repeat that, $68 billion deficit, largely as a result of a severe revenue decline in 2022 and 23. Specifically, under the state's current law and policy, we estimate the legislature will need to solve a budget problem of $68 billion in the upcoming budget process, and I understand that's maybe over a couple, maybe 3 years. And while I trust that there's a lot of smart people that are going to be working on this issue, not only here at our level, but at the legislature as well, it does give me cause for concern that that's a big number, right? $68 billion. And so I just, as we move into the next calendar year, and by the way, happy holidays and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all. But as we move into and through the next year and then the following fiscal year and our planning for our budgets, I think we need to keep in mind that we could be facing some devastating financial times if this pans out. Now I know that the state of California is robust, 5th largest economy on the planet, which makes me wonder how we are in this situation, but that's a different situation. And I'm sure that we'll be able to work our way out of it, but it's still something in the back of my mind. Many of you, as I have lived through the 2008 budget cuts, for example. That was really painful, having to line up programs that we would have to exist without And a lot of times programs, we always said those programs, some of those programs eat because they're led by somebody that you're really letting go. So, we just need to keep in mind that, maybe through attrition, we need to start thinking about our hiring practices. If it gets to there, I'm sure we'll have some strategies, but it just really concerns me that we could be in another situation like 2008, because that was really, really painful, not just from a decision-making standpoint, but, to the individuals that were laid off. So again, I apologize for a somber end. Should have put that at the beginning. But it is something I think worth mentioning. And again, thank you to all the staff for a wonderful meeting, and happy New Year.
Well, Trustee Lichtel, you just put an exclamation point on my earlier statement about this upcoming budget season being interesting. So a lot of my past activities to report on have already been mentioned, but a couple of things. Those of you that are going to be attending Moore Park College's Wild Lights and Ocean Nights, you'll love it, because I did go to that. I'm looking forward to the State of the College breakfast tomorrow at Moore Park College. And for who's going to the trustee conference, the effective trustee conference in January, and then the legislative conference, because that would be a good opportunity for us to make sure we participate in the ledge visits on Monday afternoon, I believe it is. So Chancellor, I hope you may be trying to work on that. And it's not just with our area legislators, but it's members of the higher ed committee, et cetera, and finance committee. So with that, I overlooked our board meeting evaluation, but if you don't mind, I'll lead off. I think in the interest of time, not to rush through things, but I think it was a very productive evening on all fronts here. Communication, especially from the staff reports provided, and then the give and take during trustees' questions and discussion. Process was followed. We were focused. Interaction with staff. I appreciate all the positive comments that they did receive tonight. We came to some ready decisions, and we followed our ground rules. So anybody want to add?
I'll say ditto to that.
Okay. Okay. Yep. Very good. Yep. Now we're gonna Anyone else? We're good? Okay. With that then, oh, and let me just add my Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and thank you to everyone. And as Trustee Torres said, hopefully this will be a time where you find some time for yourselves and your family and decompress. With that, we'll be adjourning in the memory of Oxnard College retiree, early childhood education professor, Rosalie Wassef, and I hope I pronounced her name correctly. With that,